All right, Fandomites, it is a Gunn double feature this week. We had our first part of our DC Fancast last episode, and this episode we are talking all about Guardians Volume 3. So strap into your very suspiciously looking Among Us suit and get on board the Bowie because it is time for Guardians of Gunn's Galaxy. Right after this, please stand by.
Harley Quinn here, and you're tuned in
No,
to the
Holly, that's my line. You're tuned in to the Bear and Beard podcast. Enjoy the show.
It's like they're lining up. Well, they're excited.
All right, what's up, Fandomites? Welcome to or back to the Bear and the Beard podcast. I am the Bear. I am joined, as always, by my majestically bearded, faithful co-host, Bearded Brian Guy, the Beard. Brosius Mayo, my guy.
Mayo Brosius, my dude, how we doing?
Jib.
Jip, jip.
We are also joined by third co-host of the show, Jay the Nerd Squatch, super fan of Guardians. So, welcome. Well, not welcome to the show because you're a part of the show, but welcome to a topic that you're really, really excited about.
Yeah.
Thank you. For those of y'all that caught our last episode, the first part of our DC fan casting, this is a back-to-back Gunn kind of thing we're doing because we all went and saw Guardians, and we're hoping that by the time this episode comes out, you've had enough time to go see it too. So without further ado, let's get into it. We have no announcements this week. We're just hoping everyone had a good time watching this movie like we did. Brian.
My first thoughts immediately is I thought because of how many times we get lineups, like superhero lineups in these movies, that I was going to be like, ugh, I don't want more lineups. I loved every time the Guardians lined up. I know it's for cinematic purposes, but I loved it. This movie was a nonstop thrill ride.
It really
Even
was.
how emotionally deep that first one is, because Peter is not.
He's not well.
And then how at the end they all come together, and even Gamora. It is just so spectacular. And even if she's doing it just because she's there, her ticket out of there, I firmly believe that the reason they failed so hard on Nowhere is because they weren't complete. And they still needed her, regardless of if she needed them or not.
One thing we knew going into this movie is that it was going to be a Rocket movie, but what we did not expect. So that first scene where we're just kind of watching Rocket go through and the music's playing, I was like, this is nice, but it's also kind of dragging. Like I want to wait for when are they going to have some dialogue? I didn't know how much I needed to stay in that moment because for most of the movie we didn't have Rocket. He was on a lifeline.
Epic song choice for him walking around too. Radiohead's Creep was majestically placed. Like, this is another James Gunn oriented soundtrack that I will be downloading
drop heaven
for sure. Like, every song meant exactly what it needed to mean in the moment it was played. It was amazing.
Yes.
And I love how this movie, it started off slow, but then like it was meant to, and then boom, action out of nowhere. Like, you didn't get to hear the villain's evil monologue. You didn't get to hear him sending, just boom, Adam Warlock's there causing havoc.
Yeah. Which we have not seen or heard from Adam since Volume 2, which was a while back now. The Guardians have been in 3 other movies since then.
Groot's grown up.
Infinity War, they were then in Endgame, and then they were in Thor: Love and Thunder. So they've had, and well, the Christmas special. So 4.
Yes.
So 4 projects that they've been in since then. And so we honestly thought maybe we'll never see Adam. And then you're right. He just, boom, on the scene. Just no explanation, nothing. He's just there, and he seeks out Rocket.
Like, he's fighting all the Guardians, but he is seeking out Rocket, and you don't know why. Like, what the heck's going on? Why is he trying to kill him? And he's not playing around neither. Like he's
No.
kind of stupid, but he is not messing around at all.
And I loved that so much. I've needed a moron in the MCU for a long time. And when I say that, it's not a bad thing. Like my first moron that I felt like we had in the MCU was Thor. And I loved that because Thor doesn't spend a whole lot of time on Midgard. So when we see him in Avengers, I mean, of course, his solo film, he's a complete idiot to Earth customs. Second time we see him in the Avengers, he's kind of picked up on a few little things, but not a lot. But then, like Dark World, he's just got Earth figured out. And ever since then, he's not really the bumbling idiot I needed, because that's one of my favorite things of him in the comics is he's always kind of like, oh, you don't have those here? Or in the halls of Asgard, or stuff like that. The comics, the cartoons, they play him as this really strong, not stupid, but when it comes to Midgard, moron. And that's great. I love it. I personally love it. Then we had Scott Lang, who got smart real quick. Like
that
second
movie is about
movie.
getting smart. Yeah.
Second movie, he's got stuff figured out. Like he's not just a thief anymore. He's in on all the fake science. Man. So now we get another, like all my morons were getting smart. And now we have Warlock, and Quill too. Yeah. He kind of comes off as this bumbling idiot in Guardians 1, but he's got space figured out. He doesn't really have Earth figured out. And I just loved it. I loved having a moron to love.
You mentioned the Christmas special earlier. Did you notice the Christmas special cameo that we got?
Yes.
The guy who sings the song.
Well, they're a band. Yeah, they're an actual band, and the front man cameos in the poker game.
Oh, okay. He was in the
and he's been in the background a few other places in the movie.
Yeah,
too. He's part of the city.
And while we talk about the poker game, I mean, talk about everybody at that table. You've got Howard the Duck,
right back from
Cosmo,
1 and 2,
the broker from Volume 1, who was Chris Fairbanks, who was just in Andor. He was the old man in Andor. And then Lloyd Kaufman from Troma Studios, who is the king of B-movies and James Gunn's director mentor. Like, that table is stacked. Yeah.
I need an old painting of that poker game.
Cosmo, man. Dog poker.
Man, Cosmo was such a bad dog this movie.
Hey! Cosmo's a good dog.
Hey!
So I loved the glimpse into the Cosmo dog brain, because the first thing she says to Kraglin is, I know you don't actually mean it, so go ahead and take it back. And it's like, okay, all right, dog brain, like for real.
And then later in the movie, and this is my thing, I'm sitting in the movie and everybody's laughing their butts off at Cosmo. And then later in the movie, when Quill tells them to watch out for Nowhere, she legit goes, "Aye, comrade." And I'm like, yeah, y'all love that commie dog, don't y'all? Y'all love that commie dog.
There was even the scene talking about the poker scene. She's talking about how they sent her. What was it? She said, "Sputnik space program send me into space, knowing I was not coming back."
Like the space dog. Yep.
And did you guys know that that's the third time we've seen Howard the Duck in the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Well, the third, he's in all three Guardians, and then he's in Infinity War, and he's in Endgame.
So he's in Endgame, yes.
Yeah,
a lot of
four.
Okay, I did not know that. I knew he was in an end credit scene. I knew he was in this, and I knew that he was in the Endgame battle. But a lot of people missed that he was in the Endgame battle.
He has got to be in the holiday special.
Well,
I would need to go back
was.
and watch it.
I need to watch it again,
like a fine-tooth comb vision. But I'm sure he is.
So I do most of my thinking at work because I don't talk to people. So here's a thought I had today while we're on the subject of Howard. Is he one of the Animen that was made by the High Evolutionary? I mean, he's literally an upright duck. Did he just escape Counter Earth? I mean, I know they don't all speak none of them speak English. Maybe he's a member of Batch 89 that we just didn't see.
Well, you know what? He absolutely could. He might not be part of Batch 89, but as they said in the movie, there's corners of the universe
consider him God.
that consider him
Yeah.
a god. So there could be people that
Yeah.
he's let go that weren't like he still feels he owns, but that could be one. It could be absolutely.
The only reason I would say he's a part of 89 is because if you notice, Rocket, Lila, Teefs, and Floor speak perfect English.
Yeah.
The Animen on Counter Earth, he learned from his mistakes and made them speak their own language. So that they couldn't tell people what he did to them. So
Right.
I would have to say that Howard would have to be 89 or before.
I did love the scene where we first get a trial run of him trying to create the Animen.
Oh.
And
Ninja Turtle.
Yes,
He makes
I provided
a Ninja
some
Turtle.
very colorful commentary. I'll lean over to Mama Bear. I went and watched the film with Mama Bear and Little Oso and Little Oso's husband. And I just lean over to all three of them. I go, he's gonna make a Ninja Turtle. And then they were like, if he doesn't make a Ninja Turtle, now I'm going to be disappointed. And then the turtle forms, and they're all like, how does that look better than Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles?
Word.
I was like,
Because
that's that
it
Disney
was-
money, baby. That's that
because
Disney money, baby.
It was real.
Yeah.
It was a costume. It wasn't CGI.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why.
That's why.
And
This
by the
movie
way,
broke the record for most prosthetics used in a film.
Yeah.
do you guys know who like the main person or the people in charge of costuming for this game? Not this game, for this movie, because I know that these movies use a lot of prosthetics and costuming to create these aliens. They go as minimal CGI as they can, and it just looks amazing. I feel like I'm in space in a wonderland.
I don't know her name, the costume designer, but she is the same costume designer from the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. He worked with
That makes
Peacemaker.
sense.
Yes. Yep.
So, best villain ever? Most hated villain ever.
I
Definitely
like
the most
Rudy
well-written.
Uchi since Peacemaker. Like, I've loved him since Peacemaker. I've thought he was really talented, but this is Shakespeare. Like, he reminded me so much of a deranged royal figure from a Shakespeare play.
Absolutely.
It was some Kenneth Branagh stuff. It was really, really good.
Definition of mad scientist who gets too much freaking power.
And obsessed with one thing. He's like Javert from Les Miserables. He's obsessed with that 5-digit name, 2460189P13.
Now, Bear, before recording, you mentioned something in our chat about the high stakes yet personal stakes, and I
so,
love that.
Real quick, before we move on, I found the costume designer. Her name is Judiana Makovsky.
I knew it started with a J.
And
yes.
high praise.
Yes.
High praise.
You made me feel like I was in an alien wonderland.
And those Guardians uniforms are like perfect.
Like the piece de resistance. Like chef's kiss. They were so good.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah, no, they were good. They have inspired a lot of cosplay for me now. I'm going to find that costume so I can do Quill and Drax.
Yeah.
There's even been some talk about making a actual working rocket face.
I've seen those things too. Yeah.
They won't be on that level, but but inspired they did. So talking about the high stakes, not high stakes aspect. So I went into this film, and anyone that's watched our show knows that I'm even trying to avoid trailers at this point. Like after the initial trailer comes out, I try not to watch any new ones that come out because, and not just Marvel's not the only guilty one of this, but I feel like they reveal too much or they have too many misleads. Like I said, and this one is not that case, but I do know from the trailers and from people that watch them and from conversations I've had with fellow nerds out in the nerd community, everyone thought someone was going to die. Everyone thought someone was going to die. It was going to be Rocket, and Rocket was going to die. Or everybody but Rocket was going to die. Or Drax was going to die because Bautista is leaving the project. You know, whatever. All this stuff. And it's like, okay, real world, stop for a moment, please. Don't ruin the space odyssey that's going to be Guardians 3 for me.
God,
So
and what it was
into this
that.
film, I felt like there were going to be high stakes, and I'm not gonna lie, I teared up 4 times. I got choked up 4 times. Each time, I thought someone's about to die.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then no one died.
Yep.
No one died.
But
Well,
can I?
technically, Rocket did die temporarily,
And
but
also,
he didn't
one of the
state it.
times I bawled like a baby, 3 people died. But keep in mind that I just put my dog down last weekend.
Yes.
So when I watched that sequence, I was the whole
Yeah,
movie.
that sequence was hard.
The first time I saw this, I had to be on a CBD gummy
Yeah.
to not cry my eyes out. But when I saw this sober yesterday, I just sobbed. I mean, it broke me. But I will tell you, and this is my explanation and my offering of I just like that he did close it without killing anyone.
Mhm.
He gave them
Yes.
all a happy ending
Yes.
without anyone gone, and there is technically still a hole, because if you notice, and I told you this earlier, and I've said this, and my mother agrees with me, so trust me, I have somebody's backed opinion, that I believe that James Gunn is one of those writers that writes women really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah, you told us that earlier in the chat, and I completely agree.
And the fact that Gamora still chooses her own path instead of the Guardians still leaves a void in their team.
Yeah.
So there is loss on multiple levels. And Rock, we had to learn of all the death and all the suffering Rocket was exposed to. I mean, I just, when I think in hindsight, I think people misconstrued James Gunn saying that this was Rocket's story. What he meant all along was that it was about getting Rocket to captain status, not getting to the end of Rocket's story. So people thought it meant death.
I never thought that Rocket was going to die. I thought everyone but Rocket was going to die.
Yeah.
Because I thought that I was right, that Rocket would lead the new team. Because they've hinted at him being a leader since Infinity War, when he jokingly says that he's the captain. And yes, it's a joke, but then when him and Thor are alone, he says, time to be the captain. He's got to go give that heartfelt speech. So he has that leadership quality. He just needed that final push. And the fact that they kept us on that edge of thinking we were going to lose him while also giving us his heartbreaking backstory,
One of the times I bawled was when Peter lost it. Like I choked up real heavy.
I was writing my review. Sorry. Sorry.
The Milano just went.
We can edit that, right? We can cut.
We can. Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, one thing that I wrote in my review that I was working on earlier is that a character lets out a scream in this movie that is like 3 seconds long, but it feels like an eternity. And it's Chris Pratt.
Yep.
When Rocket flatlines and he lets out that blood-curdling scream, it is just gut-wrenching.
I know the internet loves to make fun of Chris Pratt.
He blew me away.
And I do think that he is very overcasted, absolutely.
Yes.
But he is a good actor. You can't get around that. That was prevalent in this movie. We saw him go through all the emotions. I mean,
he's not Andy from Community anymore, and people need to realize it. Is he overcast? Yes. But he has proven himself to be worthy of his castings.
He got him super depressed in the beginning, drinking himself to the bottom, and then beating himself up because had he not been drinking, maybe he could have done more that way. Yep. And I don't think he could. Adam Warlock is very, very powerful.
Oh,
but that feeling that I could have done more for my friend, and now my friend's almost dying, my best friend.
And not only that, but the drunken attempt to fix is actually what sent Rocket down the path of destruction.
Yes.
Is and he looks at Nebula and is like, all I did was activate the med pad. Like that moment had a lot of emotion in it, because it's like, I feel like as a viewer, and people can make their own, critiques or whatever, but in that moment is when he realized, if I hadn't been drunk, maybe Rocket wouldn't be on this table right now. And it was before he was even on the table. Like, because he just looks at Nebula and says, all I did was activate the med pad.
But think about who these characters were in Volume 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this movie, how many times does Quill explicitly state, he's my best friend?
Second best.
but
Second best. I love that line from Drax.
What a character arc for the both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing Quill so worked up over possibly losing him. I didn't, that's one thing I did not expect at all. I was like, they're still going to be at odds, and that's going to be Peter's big conflict, is how do I deal with somebody I'm not, but no, oh my God, opening with him calling him his best friend, I was like, okay.
Because, but like, you're right. They could have just said, they could have had Peter want to fix him because he wants to make up for all the times he called him a dummy. Or
right,
something.
Exactly.
Like,
or a trash panda.
Yeah, or like, and I'm surprised we didn't get that line. Like, I need you to wake up so I can apologize for calling you trash panda. Or something.
No, man.
Like, that would have made me cry even more if we had like a bedside him like pouring out his heart. Oh my God! But also his gut punch thing about Gamora. Like, he loves Gamora, but he had to realize this is not his love. And I love that they did that, because too often movies, especially Marvel movies, like to show that this love is written in the stars, but it's not. Gamora, the likelihood of Gamora falling in love with him was a very off chance set of events that were specific to them meeting in Guardians 1, becoming Guardians, and becoming a team, and growing that bond that way. This Gamora has never experienced that. She has no reason to love him or even give him a chance, give him the time of day.
And neither does he. And that's the thing that I feel like he needed to realize, is that this is a Gamora that's even before he fell in love with her.
Yeah.
So it's not the woman he loved. So it's and I want to say this while we're on the subject of Gamora. Zoe Saldana is awesome in this movie.
100%.
That scene where she shoves him and screams at him and stands her ground. I think she was a little too brutal, but her point was solid.
And the rest of the movie, Gamora in the first movie is the most dangerous woman in the galaxy, like she is in the comics. And now I feel like she is again, and I love that. And the green costume, I didn't send in a picture of her comic look, but we can edit one in. But like, it is. Mm-hmm. She looks just like old 70s, 60s comic book Gamora. I was digging it.
Also,
go ahead.
I wanted to point out real quick for the comic book nerds, I loved the mirror of the comic, because a lot of people, when Guardians first came out, they were like, this isn't even accurate to the comics. Like, these characters aren't who they are in the MCU in the comic books. Nebula is actually just a space pirate that pretends to be Thanos' daughter. So the kind of mirror reflection, very altered mirror reflection, that Gamora, an adopted daughter of Thanos, is actually out here being a space pirate.
Yep.
And I loved that. It paid homage to the comic books, maybe not directly, but it did pay homage to it. And you're right, Zoe Saldana knocked it out of the park.
I also love Nebula's little line about how Gamora was always like this, and yet somehow I was the villain.
Yeah.
Also, the way that she's bonded with the Guardians, like, she has her sister who she loves, but her sister's coming after Peter, and she defends Peter.
Yep.
Because that is her friend. She might be rough around the edges, but she is willing to even go up against her own sister to make sure she doesn't go too far against her friend.
I just love the way they greet each other. Like, they don't say, hey, sis, or anything. It's just grunts. It's just audible grunts.
And speaking of, best character arcs in the MCU, Nebula is amazing. Like, when she cries when she hears Rocket's voice at the end, and I almost get this first instinct of, you shouldn't be able to do that, but yet you are. It is so great. Oh my god, I can't say enough good things about this movie.
Or even just before that scene that we just showed, the whole, I never noticed how black your eyes were. That whole, because I saw an interview with the actress that plays Nebula, and she's like, I feel like if we had seen the scene after that, if Nebula had just gotten to go off and be by herself for a minute, and we had seen it, she would have been like, okay, like she would have been twirling non-existent hair, like, because it's really, and like you said, it's an evolution. Nebula, first time we see her, she is the deadly assassin. She wants everything to go according to plan, mostly to please her father. She has now evolved to, will stand up for the squishy human, that she has grown attached to. And, not just him, but the entire team.
Yeah.
The fact that, so Guardians of the Galaxy movies have always been, there is a galaxy level threat that this ragtag team of people need to accomplish. But this one is both a galaxy level threat because, the High Evolutionary was never going to stop.
No.
And so he is a galaxy threat, but it's also like they're not doing it to save the galaxy. They're not doing it for Rocket. They're doing it for Rocket. It is a personal vendetta. Because this guy had, especially the scene when they're all like watching the recording, and I'm actually getting a little choked up thinking about it.
Yeah,
I'm glad they didn't make us watch like the horrific little.
Why didn't he tell us this?
But like they're watching it and they're like, why didn't he tell us this? And Nebula's little line of, "This is way worse than what Thanos ever did to me."
Yeah,
and we know she went through hell with Thanos.
Yep.
Hell.
100%. And I like the point that you're making there with he is a galaxy level threat. Technically, they fail, and that's another thing. Like that, I think that's why I liked this movie a lot, is because yes, they did save Rocket, but they couldn't stop him from destroying that planet, from raising it.
No,
like he said he would.
Yeah, but he's also done that before. Like, and he wouldn't stop doing that.
They saved one of his projects, and it was the Star Children. And they saved the animals too, but those were all test subjects. These were actually created. So, but technically they failed in a way. It wasn't a full, complete failure, but they did fail, which I feel like we haven't seen in a Marvel movie in a long time. We haven't seen our heroes fail.
But they didn't really know what he was going to do, though. So I wouldn't say that they failed. Their mission wasn't to save Counter-Earth.
No.
And that Counter-Earth was not the first time he's raised whole civilizations. Right. So what they did is they stopped someone who was never going to stop. He was never going to stop trying to perfect the galaxy and torture and ruin people's lives with his diseased mind.
Yeah, very.
So this is a really, and I know we do have a fondness for these here, but this is a really crackpot theory that I'm running.
I love crackpot theories.
But if you know anything about Herbert Wyndham, the High Evolutionary in the comic books, he is a contemporary and a colleague of Mr. Sinister from the X-Men universe, who is obsessed with creating the perfect man, the apex being.
Yeah.
And there's just this thought in the back of my head that because they don't use sedatives on those poor animals, they didn't numb them. They worked on them while they were awake and sentient. Is there a possibility that he was at the same time trying to get an X gene to become present within these beings through severe trauma?
I mean, we do see that in the after credit scene where the main star child, she's not only speaking English now,
She's got
but
superpower.
she has a superpower.
But I mean, she's Quasar too. She's Phyla Bell. I mean,
yeah, she's supposed to be the daughter of, in the comics,
Genus.
Marvel or
Marvel
clone of Marvel or something
Genus
like
is
that.
her brother. Yeah.
So she's got superpowers, and if they're not going to connect her back to the Kree
mutant,
then she could easily be a space mutant.
Yeah.
She could be the first.
I mean, it's just something about it because they didn't do anything to stop the pain for those creatures. I don't know.
To add to that, that would also mean that Rocket's like a genuine mutant, because he did not intend to create his super genius mind. It was like a 1 in a million,
And
one
Lila
in a
implies
lifetime.
that it was- yeah, and Lila implies that his intelligence was there before the high evolutionary ever did anything to him. She tells him there are the hands that guide the hands. His mind was always there.
He's essentially a technopath.
It's why he was exactly, and it's why he was different, and it's why he stood apart, because what he had was not given to him by the high evolutionary.
Nope.
No.
And even the
I don't think that's
high
a crackpot
evolutionary
theory
didn't
now. I
understand
think
it.
it's linked.
He
That's the
didn't
best thing
understand
in
it.
the
He's
movie.
like, but why did your brain know that? Like, he asks him several times. He's like, why did you know that?
So
you shouldn't have known that.
But notice how
a change to your theory then. What if the high evolutionary wasn't intending to do that, but his work, the foundation of his work, leads to it?
Yeah.
But yes, but think about this. In the very first scene, when Rocket is being selected, all of those other kits run in the other direction. He does not. There is something different about him before any interference. I mean, and we don't know it yet, but I'm telling you, he is going to be so important in the multiverse saga for some reason, for whatever blessing he has.
While we're talking crackpot theories, and talking about how, and we're talking about high evolutionary. First of all, I don't want him to be dead. I don't want him to be a one-off.
I don't think he is.
They didn't show his death on screen, so there is that vagueness that he could be alive. And I have a crackpot theory to share as well.
He's the new Red Skull.
Talking about like with Mr. Sinister, him working with Mr. Sinister, he makes a comment early on the ship when Peter first gets there. He says, I spent some time working on myself.
Aiming it back in my direction.
Aiming it back in my direction, which gave him supposedly the gravitational powers and all that. But his cranium also looks very cybernetic. So I'm thinking like altered carbon kind of storyline here. He's got a data backup for his consciousness.
Oh!
And because like the hard drives in the recorders' heads, I think he's got a data backup for his consciousness, and we're going to see him again.
So now we're going to get the robot high evolutionary.
Yes.
Like the guy that looks. Yeah. See.
But I also like Jay mentioning that he could be the new Red Skull, because when
too.
you peel back his face, I was not seeing that coming. I don't know
face
why.
Off like 7 times, dude. I was like, when I saw the clip,
it's a face off.
Peter said it 3 times, and I saw the things on his head. I was like, his face is coming off. His face is coming off.
So I'm stupid because I didn't even realize that wasn't his face. I just thought he'd done so much stuff to himself that it looked weird. And then even after the scene where we see Rocket scratch the hell out of them, it still did not click in my brain until the mask was pulled off. And I was like, oh my God, that's what Rocket did to him?
Yep.
Good on Rocket.
Yep.
Like, that's what trauma, when you traumatize someone, that horrifically, and they finally get the power to fight back. That's what you fucking get. I'm cussing. I'm sorry.
Language.
And while we're on the subject of that scene and what you just said, and finally getting the gumption to stand up, I want to make the comment that I love James Gunn's commentary on these politicians who will let these abysmal things happen, and then when it's finally too much for them, they stand up against the enemy, which is what his recorders do. That,
Yeah, the recorders, the security guards, everybody.
He's done, and they let it happen. But this one thing is enough to set them off. Like, come on.
And there was also the line that Peter tells to the security guards. He's like, "Look, there's only one way off the ship, so shoot me if you want to, but we're leaving."
Yeah, and it's Pete Davidson.
Yeah,
the little alien guy. Yeah, you hear it in his voice. I was like, "Oh my god, it's Pete." But
I need to check out his new show.
I never thought about that because, like you said before the show, this is a link to the way animals are treated in the beauty industry, and it's as soon as it gets to that point where you can act like you've been horrified the whole time. No, you were a part of the problem, and like the way that that one guy that they were looking for his information,
Teal, yeah,
like the way he kicked the cages, like they were all just as messed up as the High Evolutionary. Like they did not care one bit. They were evil.
Like none of these people on board the High Evolutionary ship or under his employ can get away with like the stormtrooper or the Nazi, which it's the same argument. It's the just following orders. None of these people get to do that.
No, right.
None of them.
And what I find odd is that early on in the movie, after after Adam gets stabbed and they're back on the laboratory, and he's talking to the recorders, they seem to imply that they had their own reason for getting Rocket, and they never really told us what that was, but maybe it's because they thought he could free them. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I assume that he made the recorders too.
Yeah.
So there was one thing that kind of came to mind as a James Gunn like thing when they're going to the bio.
Oh, the orgoscope.
The orgoscope. Yeah,
the orgoscope.
That reminded me so much of Starro. Like, just in the style that it was created. It reminded me of Starro.
It was gross. I was like...
It was gross. But then you got the Among Us suits.
There's no way those aren't Among Us suits. There's no way.
2001: A Space Odyssey. It's 2000. Okay, James.
I loved it.
So when they were in that place, that was one of my moments where I thought someone was going to die. I thought the whole time Drax was never leaving that place. At all. And... they really, like, to the last minute, made it seem like Drax wasn't leaving. He got shot twice.
I loved the fact that it paid a lot of homage to the kiln breakout scene.
Yeah.
In the first movie.
The anti-gravity.
This is the first time we've actually seen them, like, pull off a heist.
Yeah.
Like, because Guardians 2 was all, it was all, let's escape from the Sovereign, then it's ego. Like, the rest of the movie is ego. There is no heist. There's no escape. There's no... So he really got back to his roots here with... It was very Kiln Escape-esque, but it was pulling off a heist. And I loved that because Peter says at the end of the first movie, what should we do now? A little good? Something a little bad? A little bit of both?
But the point being that by the third movie, and judging by the uniforms, they are now... pretty straight-laced.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they seem to be, since the Nova Corps has been obliterated, they kind of seem to be the police force of the galaxy.
Right.
So, but what I will say, and what I love, is that when it became personal, and when it was about Rocket...
all bets are off.
People died.
Yep.
People died. You could tell... how absolutely personal this was when he jumps out of that building with Teal.
Yep.
Like, it wasn't just about killing him.
And then
It
Groot
was
pulls
about
a swamp
scaring
thing,
the
terrifying him.
shit out of him before he did.
Yeah. He didn't want it to be a.
He's,
This
You'll
movie
kill
is
us both,
dark.
not both.
Hey, Wing Groot. I love Hang Glider.
Groot kept
pulling-
surprising
pulling a
me the
swamp
whole
thing
movie.
over here, like just
Exactly.
I wish they didn't reveal that Groot was going to have all those hands come out in the trailer, but I
See?
will say there was more hands than in the trailer.
Yeah,
Yes, there were. Yeah, they did dumb it down. I mean, they
and I
knocked it
love
down.
the line too. It's like now kill them all.
Yeah.
now kill them all.
Yep.
It was so perfect.
Um,
No, it's such a good movie. Before we get into like the final parts of the movie, the scenes and whatnot, let's take a quick break for our Patreon promo.
Ooh, yeah, promo time, yeah.
Hey, you! Yeah, you! Listening to or watching this episode. We got something to tell you.
Our Patreon is going strong, and we really appreciate all of you that have signed up so far.
We have used that money to not only help keep the show going, but to also buy some awesome prizes to put into our charity raffles.
And if you haven't signed up yet, we hope you choose to go for the triple win.
That's right. You help us keep the show going, you donate to a great cause, and you get exclusive access to content and discounts.
That's a win, win, win.
And now we're adding a fourth tier for small businesses. It's more of a quad win.
For $40 a month, you get all the perks of the other tiers, plus we will create an ad for your business and put it in the show every episode.
That's a win, 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 right?
Right, bro. So join the Patreon today and get to winning.
Now, back to this episode. All right. Thank you so much for watching that. And we hope you take advantage of all of the extra content and stuff that's out there and sign up for our Patreon. And also, small businesses, check out that new tier for sure.
So before we leave the heist talk, I want to bring up one last character that we got to see for the second time. We got to see Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion's in space again.
And yeah, so he now has two characters.
Disney. I know someone from Disney watches our show. He is not too old to make a Firefly series. Let's do it. Come on. Let's do it. Let's just do it.
I mean, think about the fact
the
that
fan base is already there.
Yeah,
we've been doing it with
been
shows
here for a
already.
while.
Like Picard has taken place how long after Star Trek Next Generation?
So,
Time for a
like,
Firefly
already.
reboot. Let's do it.
Yeah. What are
Okay.
they up to now?
So we mentioned, his appearance in Volume 1 as that inmate.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where the MCU gets really trippy, and you got to really figure out what you want to take as canon and not, and as Easter egg. But in Volume 2 on Earth, there are movie posters with Simon Williams, Wonder Man, and Nathan Fillion is Simon Williams.
Yep.
Huh.
However,
He also plays Wonder Man in the MODOK animated series on Hulu.
However, the MCU has now cast Black Manta as Wonder Man.
Yep.
So you have to wonder if it's. I mean, it has to be the same Simon Williams because he's an actor. But it was Gunn doing what Gunn wanted to do.
Yeah.
and speaking of which, I want to take a really quick moment to address this bit. But when they're in the elevator talking about Gamora's story, and
I loved that.
you have to appreciate the fact that this is the biggest middle finger that he could have given Marvel Studios for killing her in Infinity War.
Yep.
He didn't tell them that it was okay. They just went ahead and changed his story without asking.
Yep.
And then what does he do in the holiday special? Guess what? Whoever wrote Thunderbolts is going to have to explain how Bucky got his arm back. He got them back. Oh, And not to mention the fact that in Infinity War, Peter Quill has his helmet back after Ego destroyed it.
Yep.
And now Gunn is like, well, guess what? I'm gonna almost kill him off because he doesn't have it. So y'all deal with it from now on. I'm gone.
See, I'm one of those, like, I honestly feel like Star-Lord just has multiples. So that one was an easy one to explain.
Yeah.
But also, how prepared can he really be with multiple helmets if he's only got one Walkman? Like,
exactly.
and
he has an apartment shaped like a Walkman.
Right. And okay, so we got the scene where he goes back for the Zune in this movie. It's like, how many times are you going to put your life on the line for music from Earth instead of just going to Earth?
But when you think about it from the story point, the minute that Rocket says, I'm done running, and turns around before everybody else does, that is the moment that Pete realizes, okay, he takes this. So he really did turn around to get that Zune for Rocket. He absolutely did. He really did.
And that led us into my favorite scene, like, because it was the lineup, not on, like, it was just the perfect culmination. Like, we've seen the side-by-side standing heroes in every hero film. We had the Avengers. Well, the Avengers did the 360 spin around all of them as they were assembling. That was cool.
Yeah.
Snyder did it with them all on top of something standing next to each other.
Yeah.
Great. This lineup, though, was absolute penultimate for me because the Beastie Boys played over it.
Yes. No.
And as soon as I heard the words "no sleep," I yelled out, "Tell!" There was no, and just the rest of that, I was just singing along with the Beastie Boys during that whole
and they
scene.
just looked awesome.
It was amazing. And for it to be a one, like, I really hope I do find out that it was a complete one shot, because that hallway scene was on point.
I watched somebody today. I watched somebody today, and he said he watched it like he got a press version of it, so he watched it over and over, and he can't find any cuts. But then again, the majority of it is CGI.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not like a Daredevil.
But if all the mocap people were where they were supposed to be to make that scene work the way it was,
you're right.
Then I'm okay with that. Yeah. The only scene that topped that was my favorite scene.
Yeah, it was
until the final fight
with the High Evo.
Because not only did we just get Rocket figuring out that he's actually a raccoon. I mean, it took 5 movies, but
like he kept resisting. He's like, I'm not a freaking raccoon. Why do you keep calling me a raccoon?
He even told Lila that when he died. He's like, I'm not a raccoon, and then goes back. But we get him figuring that out. Then he changes his mind to go, we have to get all the animals off the ship, all of them, because even they do a callback like, I thought we were limiting ourselves to the higher life forms, and Peter's just like, yeah, me too, but it is what it is. But then we get a scene where the villain doesn't know it's over until it's over. And we've very rarely gotten that in an MCU film. Most of the time, it's like the one that comes to mind the best for me is at Avengers, where Loki's on the ground, and when he wakes up, Hawkeye's right there, Black Widow's there, Hulk's in the background, Iron Man's got his fit, everybody's standing there. Loki knows it's over. And this scene, High Evolutionary didn't know it was over till it was over, because everybody just came into the fight on cue perfectly. It wasn't just, it started out, I think I can take this little raccoon, but then everybody just comes out of nowhere, puts him on the ground,
because they've all watched what this sick in the mind person has done to their best friend, to their family. They watched it horrifically. And they're like, okay, now we have a chance for some payback. And they did not hold back. All of them went ham. The only thing I would have changed about that scene, I thought Adam Warlock should have showed up. They showed us him reacting to his mom dying. That would have been the perfect moment for him to be like, okay, I'm standing up to the High Evolutionary as well. But
Sorry,
Yeah.
you mentioned Adam Warlock, so this is one of the topics that I said I definitely wanted to discuss.
Yes.
I didn't want him to be the space Jesus that he was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Right.
I didn't necessarily need that, but I needed so much more. Like, this character, James Gunn has gone on record and said is one of his favorite characters, and teased him in Volume 2, but he does nothing that really feels like Adam Warlock at all in this. He's and I'm gonna bring this up because I've told you guys this. He is essentially the Superman, the evil Superman analog for this story, which leads me into saying that yes, just cast Will Poulter as Superman.
Yeah.
Do it. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all. Okay.
I'm with both of you. I think I needed more, but I sit back and I think, now that I've seen the movie, I sit back and go, this wasn't his story.
no.
And now that the other Guardians have left, we should get more Adam in the future. And that
I
last
think you'll give us
cutscene,
something.
that mid-credit scene shows us we will, and I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Which I want to talk about the end credit scene, because I think I'm done waiting for the very last scene.
I didn't wait for it.
I think Marvel has just decided we're not going to actually tease anything. We're just gonna like give them a little laugh moment. Like, this is what you waited for.
It was a teaser, though.
Yeah.
It really was. And like I told you, the 2015 Secret Wars story that the movie version is going to be mostly based on. The introduction storyline to that was explicitly called the Legendary Star-Lord, which is what they called him right there in that frame. I think that one of those unannounced projects in between Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars is something Star-Lord. One way.
Star-Lord working on Earth.
That or Star-Lord, because in the comics, it's about that whole bit is the Jason of Spartax thing. It's Star-Lord finding out his heritage in the stars. Maybe the show or the movie is about Star-Lord finding his heritage on Earth as a mirror.
I would also love for the villain to be Jason of Spartax, even if he's not in any way his dad.
Right. What if he shows up and he's like, I'm your real dad? Yeah.
Or something like that.
What if there's something leaking back to his mom? Like, he's staying with his grandfather, so maybe there is some lineage with his mom's side.
Yeah.
Maybe his dad, maybe Ego is not the only powered
individual. Multiple people I have watched have suggested that what makes him different amongst Ego's offspring is something with Meredith. Something to do with mom. It has to be.
Yeah.
But what I thought is, what if David Hasselhoff turns out to be Jason of Spartax? And what if he really is his dad?
What if he's not his dad? What if he's his great-grandfather?
Like Ego, like
because,
another Celestial,
because the way I look at it is, and this is probably reading way too much into this, but the same actress that plays Peter's mom was in Captain America: First Avenger. Now, I don't think, like we've seen in this movie alone, they recycle people in the MCU for bit parts mostly. For those of y'all that aren't aware, Mainframe, the Guardian that is just a robotic head, that's also Tara Strong, who plays Miss Minutes. So, and Nathan Fillion, we already talked about coming back. He was in Guardians 1, and now he's back in Guardians 2, or Guardians 3. There was one other, and Lila, the otter, that's Hawkeye's wife in two other,
and Judy Greer,
3 other projects.
Yeah.
So,
and Judy Greer from Ant-Man is the Warpig.
And Judy Greer, if she plays Warpig. So it could just be that, but if she really was alive during World War II and then is also still alive in the 70s and still young, she could have a celestial gene from somewhere else, making possibly Jason of Spartax her father.
What if her father? Yeah, what if her dad is an alien too. And
Yeah,
we
because
don't
his
know
name's
it.
Jason. Like
Like,
the
He could be a
granddad's name is
Skrull.
Jason.
Why
He
else?
could be a scroll.
That's a good point.
Oh.
Because why else would they have him go back to his grandpa? I mean, yes, they want him to go back to his family, but they specifically chose his grandfather.
Spartax
alive.
could be a scroll city. I'm
He
just
also said, I just thought about this. Peter also did some quick math when he was changing the for the algorithm for the shields.
like,
He says, if I go back to Earth, my grandfather would be like 90.
Yeah.
His grandfather didn't look 90.
exactly.
So
That I have to disagree with. People look very differently for different ages. I do carpet
Right.
cleaning for a living, and I
Yeah,
clean for a lot of
I
old
clean
ladies.
for a lot of old
And
people,
Right.
too.
there's been some people in their late 90s that are getting around better than some
Yeah.
people in their 60s and 70s.
and
So
it could just be that
age is
simple,
a
but there's
choice.
also the fact that Mantis thought that he was 50.
yeah.
So and he's been out in space, not really counting Earth years. So
Exactly.
there's a chance. There's a small chance. It's very, very crackpot theory.
You know
but-
what? That's a really good point, because think of how much time has passed in between Guardians 1 and Guardians 3. And like when he was a kid and what time it is now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
1980. It was 1980 something. Yeah.
And
now
now
it's-
88. I think it was 88 when he got
Let's do
abducted.
some math. Let's do some math real quick, because
I'm not
it's-
sure exactly when he got abducted, but it would make sense because I mean they said in Guardians 1 there's something in your blood. We when we scanned you, we found that this is the reason you were able to hold the Infinity Stone, which honestly, that's why I've liked Quill the whole time, because he actually made the sacrifice play. He didn't know he was going to be able to hold the stone. He just didn't want Ronan to have it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So even if it meant his death. So he didn't know that. And then we find out that he is one of Ego's kids, and so is Mantis. But that might not, like y'all are saying, that might not be the only thing that makes him special. And I like that. I like that possibility that there is something else out there. If his granddad turns out to be Jason of Spartax that came to Earth to get away from the monotony of space warlordship, then I'm
Right.
okay with that.
Another thing I want to mention, I loved Mantis and Drax's friendship in this. I really did.
Yes.
You didn't?
I had some issues with how they handled Mantis in this movie.
So,
Yeah.
So
creator,
I did love the relationship, yes, but Mantis specifically, because she says early in the movie that she doesn't want to use her powers to change anyone's mind, but then she does it the entire rest of the movie. I feel like then don't say that.
But
then
she
don't-
said a friend's mind. That was the difference.
But then
said,
she
"I
uses
don't
it
wanna
on Drax."
Manipulate a friend.
Right, but then she uses
Yeah,
it on Drax.
But they also make the point in that same scene that she's done it to him before and does it because it's funny.
Right.
So she just loves picking on him because he lets her.
But the whole forget thing that
That
hit
was
me hard.
that was different. But
I
she did
felt
just
like
strike
that
me.
made her more of a villain than the High Evolutionary in a way. In that
Wow,
one moment,
man.
in that one moment, because if you're sitting here defending him, yes, you said something wrong, but explain it. Don't just make him forget it,
Yeah, true.
forever and go back to it, because that makes you, I mean, kind of like Ego wanted you to be.
True.
Also, I get why they did it, but the fall gags, like every time that she fell, it was like on her head or something like that. I kept forgetting that she was super strong all throughout the movie. Like every time I'd see her do something super strong, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. She's super strong. Like and then it would go by a little ways. And it's like, oh yeah, she's super strong. So I had like a goldfish moment with that. But
I forget how strong Drax is sometimes,
Yeah,
because I
same.
always think back to him trying to fight Ronan and it just being no match.
right. Yeah, Ronan just picking him up and then being like, I don't remember your family, It was very, very well done. But again, and I said this, I think, off of recording, I'm waiting for us to get to the kooky Sage of the Universe Mantis. So
And I think
I'm not upset with it. I just had a slight issue with it in this movie. But if it gets us to there, then I'm cool with it. I mean, she redeemed herself real quick. The whole they eat batteries, they don't eat humans. They're more afraid of us than we are of them.
Yeah.
Kind of mentality that she had, that made up for everything from earlier in the movie. And I did like the gullibleness that she had.
I loved at the end when she was just like, come on,
babies. Come on,
and
babies.
she just walks away all powerful. Like, that gave me vibes of her, like, priestess vibes from the Guardians of the Galaxy video game.
Because
honestly, I had no problem with Mantis in the MCU.
No.
Huh?
I had no problems with her until I played that game and knew what Mantis could be.
Yeah.
And then I was like, why did they not do Mantis?
Is she the Celestial Madonna in that game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I was getting ready to say is I think that's coming.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's next.
Same.
When she's bringing those creatures with her, she's going.
I want
big
kooky
twist
space
of the
mage
multiverse saga.
Mantis,
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. So real quick, I just want to make the point because I sent it in private chat, but I've got a little bit of a battery left, not a lot.
Okay.
I think we're about done.
Is there any way that I could talk about Batch 89 real quick?
Yeah,
then?
you talk about Batch 89. I think that was I'm good.
The only thing I wanted to mention real quick, Kraglin was awesome, even though he was barely in it.
Yes,
Love that he got to. I still wish I would have
Love
mentioned.
that Michael Rooker suited back up for Yondu.
Yondu Ghost,
for
man.
one like little hallucination scene. It was amazing.
Yondu Ghost.
Yeah, no, that Sean Gunn,
So good.
he's a gem.
He is.
All right,
He is.
Batch 89, go with it.
Just real quick, because I love the Guardians, and as much as I love them, when the movie came out, I had no idea who they were. It was literally the movie that set all of this into motion for me.
Mhm.
And what I love in the comics is, Rocket has 3 associates on Half-World, and they are Lila the Otter, Walrus the Walrus, and Black Jack O'Hare the Rabbit. And so what James Gunn did was he took those 3 animals and gave us something, instead of making them all kind of cool and spacey, they were all innocent and pure and just... And they've each shown up. If you look in Guardians 1, Lila's name is on Rocket's booking screen. And then in Guardians 2, there's a walrus painting in the Michael Rooker hostel room when he's in the brothel with the prostitutes. There's a walrus painting. And now we've got the rabbit. And I was just, all throughout the second movie and the third one, I was hoping we'd finally get to see them. And, here they are. And it broke my heart. Like, not even just the fact that they unfortunately died, but just they're so difficult to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Teefs. Like, with his eyes pried open and his big old wheels, I mean, my heart just sunk every time. And Floor, every time I looked at them.
Floor got me hard.
Floor with her little red nubs, I couldn't handle it. It was hard. And then, of course, when they died, you have to think about how Floor was acting. The last thing they felt was agony, was terror.
Yep.
I mean, it just, oh my God. He did things. He didn't show us the physical trauma that Rocket suffered, but he showed us every other bit in the most real, raw sense. And it's just genius. And the change in tone that he uses in the flashbacks. This movie stands to reason that what he's getting ready to do at DC Studios is going to blow everybody's minds.
Yeah. If anyone was worried about what he's going to do with the DC universe after watching this film, then we didn't watch the same movie.
Yeah. I love it.
I'm sorry.
Between the Guardians movies, The Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, I genuinely have more confidence in James Gunn than I do in Kevin Feige. And not that I've lost any confidence in Kevin Feige.
No,
And we just got shut down.
there's snipers outside my door. The Stark drones are outside.
Kevin is going to come hunt us all down.
The Kevin.
Instant CGI She-Hulk.
Oh
yes, but wait until I turn away because your CGI is very expensive.
The moments that I was watching Kraglin, though, I just kept thinking back at Pensacon when I'm sitting there, I'm literally staring right at Sean Gunn. He's not that far away from me. He didn't even have anyone in his line. I just couldn't think of anything clever I wanted to say to him, and so I never walked up to him. But I'm like, he's right there. And then I was just about to get the courage to walk up, and he was walking right by me because he had to go do something.
The only thing I want to ask him is, how did it feel to be petted by Dave Bautista? Because in the motion capture suit on Guardians 1, Dave had to sit there and do Sean's hair like this.
Me and my mom actually had the wonderful pleasure of speaking to him right after the first movie came out. And we have this wonderful signed picture that he did. He didn't charge us. The convention had closed for the day and we were on our way out. And I just sit there during the post-credit scene. And, I cannot call this man my friend. I cannot call this man anything to me. But knowing that he went from being a bit character to wearing a Guardians uniform, I am just so beyond proud of how popular he has become.
He also played the voice of young Rocket in this film.
A baby Rocket.
A baby Rocket. So the Hertz line.
Oh, shut up. No.
All Sean Gunn.
And real quick, do we think there's going to be a fourth one?
I do. I think we're going to see another Guardians movie. Or
we need a Groot-focused one where he finds out he's not the last one. Go to Planet X.
If they do another Guardians film, I do not want them to call it Volume 4.
No, it would have to be something.
Yeah, give it a
it's not going to
name.
be. It's not going to be Sean Gunn, so it's going to be moving forward. It's going to be something different. So give it a new Guardians of the Galaxy and the Voyage of Groot. I don't know.
Like I said, what if he goes back to Planet X and plot twist? His father is the ruler of this planet. His father's King Groot, who in the comics is despicable. So there's your Jason of Spartax plotline, but with Groot.
Yeah.
They definitely have to get creative with the titling, but I mean, Marvel switched titles before. Think about the Thor movies. It used to be Thor 2. Wasn't Thor the Dark World Thor 2? Didn't it have
it was just Thor the Dark World.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, I guess I was wrong with that, but I want another Guardians movie, but I want these three movies to be their own thing, like their own package.
As a matter of fact, just
the Guardians of the Galaxy. No,
so the only films in the MCU so far that have used numbers for sequels is Iron Man, the Iron Man franchise, and the Guardians franchise. That's it. Because Captain America is Captain America, the First Avenger, then the Winter Soldier, and then Civil War. Then you have even Black Panther is not Black Panther 2, it's Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
And Ant-Man isn't either.
Ant-Man, is.
And I'm glad Marvel does that too. And honestly, you can't even consider the Guardians movies to be 1, 2, and 3 because it's the whole volume thing.
No, it's one story.
It's meant to be that. So Iron Man is excused because I mean it was very early Marvel, and back then every movie was like you got Shrek 2, Shrek 3, like you have to have those numbers in there.
Shrek the Third and Shrek 4 ever after. What if they just called it the New Guardians of the Galaxy,
or the Guardians,
or Guardians, or just Guardians,
or the Annihilators? I'm just saying.
Or the Annihilators,
or it can have another focus. It's the Guardians and something. So something and the Guardians. So it's a Guardians movie, but it focuses on something else.
Yeah. There's a bunch of different ways they can go with.
Oh yeah. But either way, this is not the last time we're going to see Rocket in
No.
this new team of the Guardians either, because they wouldn't set that team up if we're not going to see them do something.
No,
No,
love
absolutely
that
not.
scene too. The whole what's your favorite band?
Oh my god. I gotta go with Cosmo Carpenters. Never
Yeah.
a bad song.
Never a bad
Never
song.
a bad song.
Well, guys, I think that's it for Volume 3 for us. I very much enjoyed talking about this with you guys.
Oh, me too.
No Talking Nerdy segment this week, unless you just really want to let us know what your rating of the Guardians Volume 3 was. And we're going to give our ratings now to end out the episode. Starting with the Beard himself. How many beards do you give Guardians out of 10?
I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10. I thought my number would go down when I sat with the movie for a bit, but I find very little flaws with this movie. My whole little Adam Warlock thing was it, and it's not even that big of a complaint.
Okay. I can agree with that. Nerd Squatch, how many Squatch prints?
Little bit of a preface because my battery hasn't dinged me again, so I'm gonna go off on a bit of a tangent real quick. But
All right.
I love the first movie. I saw Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, Thor 1 and 2, Cap 1 and 2, all of those movies in the theaters. But it wasn't until Guardians of the Galaxy that I was hooked. That like Marvel had my heart and my soul hooked. Volume 2, I am very controversial in this opinion, is not my favorite.
No.
I
can agree with you on that, actually.
I think it misses on quite a few notes, but overall, the reason I'm going to give this movie the score that I'm going to is because what it does for Volume 2 is elevate it to the point that I can say he has perfected and made the perfect trilogy within the MCU. It is perfect.
Without the sequel having to be the best of the three.
Best.
I like this sequel, but I wouldn't say it's like a perfect movie.
So 10, I'm 10 out of 10. I
love it.
10 out of 10. I love this movie. It gave me everything I've wanted since, every answer that I've needed. The one thing we're waiting on is that Easter egg that he hasn't told us about.
Yep.
But everything else came to a conclusion in this story. And the reason that I'm safe to give it a 10 out of 10 is because even if they chose not to do anything with this new team, my heart is pleased, my soul is pleased, and I am so grateful that he got the chance to make this movie, and now he can go do the same thing for everything at DC.
Yes.
Everything at DC. Because that's where my heart has been since I was a little one. So I have been waiting for these movies to have some cohesion to them.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, one of our very earliest episodes of the podcast, Bear and I were talking about the DC universe, and I was just, and I've said this so many times on the podcast, but I said it very early on too. I want to love a good DC universe.
Yes.
I want it so bad. And I see this as the groundwork, and plus everything we've heard about the Flash movie. I know Gunn wasn't super involved in that, but it's setting up.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I watched a review the other day, or like a first thoughts kind of thing, where a guy said there were some parts of this in the third act where I said, "Oh yeah, that was James Gunn." So he definitely did some things to this movie.
Because the movie itself might not be a Gunn production, but it is supposed to set up his DC universe.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna have to come up with a new moniker for that too. Like, I really need the internet to hurry up and come up with a moniker, because I don't want to call it the DCEU, because the DCEU.
I think it's just DCU.
Is it the DCU?
He's already told us it is.
Okay,
DCU.
good.
Yep.
I'm gonna call it the GDCU. The Gunn.
Yeah.
Basically, he's saying that everything moving forward is DCU. Anything that doesn't take place within that universe is an amalgamation thing. So it still happens in the multiverse somewhere.
Elseworlds.
Or Elseworlds.
Elseworlds.
I don't know why I said amalgamation.
The Batman and Joker.
Yes.
are currently the
Elseworlds.
only active Elseworld stories right now.
And that's perfectly fine with me.
I can't wait to see who Gunn's Batman is. I read a really great article from Variety. They published yesterday that, David Cornsweet, who we talked about for Superman,
Mm-hmm.
actually has moved forward to the screen testing stage.
Really?
Ooh.
Yes. So, and
Very
something
exciting.
else. And something else, they said that Nicholas Hoult is possibly being approached about being Lex Luthor.
Love it.
Which I love. I think that's great. And something, I'm trying to think what they said, but anyway, just that, I just can't wait for what he does.
Yes.
It is going to be so good.
So, Bear, how many Bear paw prints
Oh,
do
yeah.
you give this?
I'm
movie?
giving it a solid 8.5 out of 10. Though my score is lower, I still give it a 10 out of 10. Would recommend go and watch.
Fair.
And the only reason I'm taking points off is just because the Mantis thing, and that's pretty much it. Like, she's a main character at this point, and I felt like she got done wrong, but I then remember it was Rocket's movie, not Mantis's movie, so I'm also okay with that. But 8.5 is not a bad score here. I mean, I don't think we've ever given lower than a 7, so I think we're doing pretty good tracking wise.
So, your Mantis thoughts. What do you think about the fact that what do you think she's in Eternals too?
I would love for her to be in Eternals too.
Chances are that's where she shows up next.
I need her to be the Celestial Madonna. I need that kooky sage character that she's
Everything
all-knowing.
she says means something, but it doesn't make sense to you.
But shit, is that what they're doing with Cersei?
I don't think so.
That.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I hope not, because they already have a character that can do it, that has already done it. I don't want them to do it with Cersei, but we will see.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get out of here. We really appreciate y'all sticking around. If you've made it this far, of course, like and subscribe on YouTube. We don't do that at the beginning because we're not YouTubers. Go and check out, if you haven't already, our last episode, which was fan casting the DCU Part 1, and look for next episode, Part 2 of that discussion, to finally end it out. And then we'll have probably Mandalorian Season 3 coming soon. I know it's a little behind, but hey, it's still Star Wars and we're still going to talk about it. So definitely check those out. In the meantime, I've been the Bear.
I've been the Beard.
In the meantime, wait and see. Sorry.
And that's been Jay the Nerd Squatch. And we will remind you, as always, to stay awesome,
stay bearded,
and much love, guys. Until then, we are out of here.
Boom, cut the check.
That was totally wicked!
Thanks for checking out another Bearded Bear Entertainment production. New episodes of this show are released every other Friday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, in both audio and video format. Audio episodes are available pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts, and YouTube is the only place for video format.
For listeners, subscribe on your app so your device downloads it automatically. And for viewers, subscribe and click that little bell so you're notified about all our new nerdy content. Also, don't forget to follow us on our socials.
Facebook,
Instagram, and
TikTok
are all great places to interact with us.
Many thanks to the rest of our team, all of our geeks of the round table, and all of our awesome friends of the cast. Much love, y'all. Lastly, for more cool music like this awesome outro track, go check out HarlequinSoul, Secret Apex on Facebook and Spotify. His links are in the description as well.
Talk at you next episode, nerds.
See you then!